Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. Amid all that you keep seeing on national television, I think the one story that you must not lose sight of is that the virus is still out there, strong and invisible. But while that may be the case, and the Prime Minister has given his message that you must wear a mask and that you must not slacken till we wait for a vaccine, the other side of the story is, how prepared are we as far as a medical infrastructure is concerned? What is the situation in the hospitals? Well, we will be showing you in this presentation in just a short moment from now that in many states, something as crucial as oxygen is in short supply. And that is posing to be a very, very big threat. Remember, this is the difference between life and death as far as serious COVID patients are concerned. So we are going to put that to a discussion on this show. What we are going to discuss is that COVID numbers are rising, but there is also a crisis of oxygen. This is the new COVID mess. As cases are surging, shocking reports are coming in from hospitals across the country. This is not something that has happened in one state. Oxygen is in short supply, ladies and gentlemen. And this is proving to be a big, big problem. Wasn't lockdown, the most important question that we'll ask, wasn't the lockdown meant to build this capacity so that we are able to make sure that we have our medical infrastructure in place? What has happened to that? Why is this oxygen in short supply? And are our hospitals still not COVID prepared? We'll be soon adding 1 lakh cases per day. Let's quickly take a look at this presentation and then we'll throw this open for a discussion.
Maharashtra is facing a huge oxygen supply crisis that is impacting COVID patients who are critical. According to the Indian Medical Association, only 60% of the total requirement is being met. The medical body also claims that shortage has resulted in black marketing of oxygen.
जो भी ऑक्सीजन की ज़रूरत है उससे सिर्फ 60% ऑक्सीजन का सप्लाई हो रहा है और ये प्रशासन का बहुत ही बड़ा फेल्योर है। महाराष्ट्र के शहरी इलाकों में और ग्रामीण इलाकों में खासकर ऑक्सीजन नहीं मिल रहा है। महाराष्ट्र के पुणे, सोलापुर, सातारा, उस्मानाबाद, ठाणे, कोल्हापुर ऐसे कई जिलों में ऑक्सीजन का सप्लाई बिल्कुल ही नहीं हो रहा है। ऑक्सीजन के सप्लाई में काला बाजार बहुत ही तरीके से हो रहा है। ऑक्सीजन का एक सिलेंडर है वो 500-600 से लेकर 1500 रुपए तक हॉस्पिटल्स को मिल रहा है। इसमें ये कम से कम 10 या 20 गुना ज़्यादा पैसे हॉस्पिटल्स को आ रहे हैं।
ऑक्सीजन का सप्लाई बहुत ही शॉर्टेज हो गया है। बहुत मुश्किल से हॉस्पिटल्स को ऑक्सीजन का सप्लाई होते रहा है। हम हमारी तरफ से बहुत कोशिश कर रहे हैं लेकिन सप्लाई नहीं हो पा रहा है। जो वेंडर्स है वो सही टाइम पे सही वक्त पे ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई कर नहीं सकते हैं। इस हालात में अगर डॉक्टर्स एक प्रकार पेशेंट सीरियस हो गया है तो हम कुछ भी नहीं कर सकेंगे। हम हतबल रहेंगे और हमें सिर्फ देखते बैठने से कुछ नहीं कर पाएंगे। इसलिए जल्द से जल्दी ऑक्सीजन का सप्लाई निरंतर रेगुलर होना चाहिए।
There are around 5 big manufacturers in Maharashtra and around 80 refillers through which oxygen is supplied to state hospitals. Prior to COVID, the price of oxygen was around 20 rupees per cubic meter. However, now, oxygen is being offered to refillers by manufacturers for 35 rupees per cubic meter and the price touches 45 to 50 rupees by the time it reaches the hospital or the person who is in need. Critical patients need around 14 cubic meter of oxygen per day. There are around 8,500 critical patients of COVID and oxygen is extremely important for them. President of the Food and Drug License Holder Foundation admits a flaw in the oxygen supply chain.
तो एकाएक रेट का बढ़ जाना और दूसरी बड़ी बात है कि जो 80 रिफिलर्स हैं उनके पास एफडीए के साथ क्लब होकर जितने कोविड हॉस्पिटल महाराष्ट्र में रन कर रहे हैं वो एक एक रिफिलर्स को एक एक सर्टेन जो कोविड हॉस्पिटल्स हैं उनकी जवाबदारी अगर दी गई होती तो ये जो कमी है वो कमी शायद महाराष्ट्र में नहीं आती। लेकिन एफडीए प्रशासन की मिसमैनेजमेंट मैं कह सकता हूँ या फेलियर मैं कह सकता हूँ जिसकी वजह से आज जो है महाराष्ट्र में गैस बाटले की कमी सामने दिखाई पड़ रही है।
The Food and Drug Foundation has also written to the FDA to stop black marketing of oxygen from Maharashtra. Meanwhile, the state government has asked to form a panel in every district who will be in contact with the oxygen supplier. Also, hospitals have been asked to ensure that it is used under the supervision of experts. With Pooja Bharadwaj in Mumbai, Ritti Isar for NDTV.
And let's also show you what is happening all over the country. Let's pull up those graphics. There is an oxygen crisis that is being reported in Gujarat hospitals as well. You will soon see it on your screen. Gujarat government has issued a notification to regulate supply. In Maharashtra, you've already seen the reports. In MP, 4 people are dead in Devas after oxygen supply crisis. The MP government has said that deaths are not linked to oxygen crisis. They're trying to ensure the supply of oxygen. So let's just hope, at least as of this moment, what governments don't end up doing is to suppress this or underplay this big crisis that is emerging all over the country. I want to introduce our guest, Dr. Sushil Bindru, pulmonologist and an intensivist in charge of COVID ICU at Jaslok Hospital, Dr. Skand Trivedi, senior cardiologist at Bansal Hospital in Bhopal, Dr. Deepak Chaudhary, HOD, Pulmonology, National Heart Institute, and Dr. Tushar Patel from the Sterling and KD Hospital, and also the member of COVID Task Force Gujarat. Thank you very much. This is an important discussion, doctors, and thank you for your time. Dr. Bindru, let me begin with you. This, how big do you think this this crisis can be? The fact that there is oxygen in short supply at a time when we are adding 1 lakh cases a day.
So, yeah, this is a very crucial issue because, unlike other respiratory viruses, COVID attacks the lungs in almost 18 to 20% of cases. Other respiratory viruses will attack almost lungs in 2 to 3% of cases. So, once it enters the lung, what we have seen in past 6 months is that, once it enters the lung, it incites a severe inflammatory reaction, and within a day or within few hours, the patient becomes oxygen dependent. And within 3 to 4 days, we have seen lungs undergoing a lot of fibrosis, which is not seen in any of the viral infections we have been encountering till now. So yes, oxygen is a necessity, and it is indispensable for all the patients who are entering the ICUs in these patients. They can't survive without the supply of oxygen.
Dr. Trivedi, one question that begs to be answered is that what exactly did we do in the lockdown? Because one of the main reasons why lockdown existed, so the government claims, is that we were into capacity building. Now, have we failed in building that medical capacity to be able to deal with the COVID-19 cases? Because if we face a crisis like this at a time when we are adding 1 lakh cases a day, then this is very alarming.
Sanket, I agree with you that probably partially you may be right, but then these are unprecedented times. Nobody has any experience. And when we talk of oxygen crisis, I was looking into some of the data from the medical gas, this gas supply associations. The consumption was about 2,000 metric ton per annum, and their capacity is 64,000 metric ton. So, in this circumstances of COVID, there is 20% reduction in our routine surgeries, so our oxygen consumption has come down. Almost all the industries which use oxygen, they have stopped using it. So I think it is not due to the manufacturing, but probably the problem is with the logistics and supply at various levels. Probably we were caught unaware that oxygen is to be given not only to the district levels, but to the taluka levels as well. Another important thing is that nobody thought that oxygen consumption is going to go up by 4 to 5 times more. What we are seeing in COVID patients with high flow oxygens, that per patient requirement, which normally maybe say about a liter, now it goes to 5 liters. So this type of anticipation or homework was probably left out. And what we are seeing is probably because of that.
Okay, Dr. Chaudhary, let me give you a small example. We did not have the capacity to manufacture sanitizers. We did not have the capacity to manufacture PPE kits, gloves, masks. But within a short span of time, I mean, the Prime Minister reiterates this from every platform, we were able to not just build it, but we are also exporting it. Do you think that this is one crucial area where we have been found wanting, oxygen?
I agree with you that we are behind in this, but nevertheless, we are not facing this problem in the main cities as such, but we are really facing this problem in the peripheral areas. And like my previous speaker just said, that previously we would give a patient 2 to 4 liters of oxygen. Now, if we are going to use masks with the reservoir, or we are going to use venturi masks, or if we are going to put them on high flow nasal cannulas, then in that case we are giving a patient something around about 15 to 50 liters of oxygen per minute. So you can imagine the amount of oxygen that one requires in these kind of situations. But these patients are the ones, those last 5% patients who would require this kind of a high flow oxygen. If you see, even in Delhi, the government has made arrangement for people to have pulse oximeters at home or oxygen concentrators at home.
Correct.
So therefore, these provisions are being made, but then our numbers are too large. And to cope up with that, obviously, this was something which was unprecedented, which came, and the government was not really ready for it. But nevertheless, we did utilize this time to increase our beds, to increase our ventilators, to increase our oxygen supply, and to, get the required equipment in place. We can't say that we were not really prepared, because we even created COVID hospitals and all. So we are prepared, but then our number is too large. So that's why it looks very substantial that, yes, we are faltering somewhere in, making the arrangements for the oxygen.
But then, Dr. Chaudhary, that exactly means that we are not prepared, because our numbers are too large.
We are underprepared.
Underprepared, yeah, absolutely. Dr. Patel, I want to come to you. In Gujarat, there has been an oxygen crisis in Gujarat hospitals, where the government has issued notification to regulate the supply. I want to know from you, Dr. Patel, that as mentioned by Dr. Chaudhary, that in peripheral areas is where this problem is acute. Do you think that now that COVID-19 cases are going to spread, in remote areas, there is a second surge in the cities, but it is also spreading in rural areas. Now is the time where we should make sure that the supply is proper, even at the taluka level.
Yes. In Gujarat, the government has taken already, at least since last 2 days, our city area also some crisis of the oxygen suppliers having done, but government immediately take actions regarding this supplying of they take action on the suppliers, and they provide the oxygen in the city area properly. In now the increasing into the remote area like taluka place, and then our government has also preparation to the taluka place also in remote like tribal area also. We are preparing a COVID hospital and proper supply of these oxygenations with this in small like PSC and CSC level. Government tried to put oxygen cylinder also concentrator into this local and tribal area also.
Okay, Dr. Bindru, I want to come back to you. This point that was mentioned by Dr. Trivedi, that this issue could be logistical. Do you think that there has to be some sort of a national strategy to deal with handling this logistics management of oxygen supply and oxygen cylinders? Because we will need the supply.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I think what Dr. Trivedi said is absolutely right. Like the amount of oxygen these patients require is huge. The HFNC systems, the HFNOs, the BiPAPs, the NRBMs, they are requiring, they are taking in gazillions of oxygen. So I think we need to have a strategy, a nationwide strategy, because we are still peaking. We are not peaked, and we are still in the midst of the pandemic, and we need to have a nationwide strategy for having adequate infrastructure, health infrastructure, and of which the basis is the oxygen supply to the hospitals.
Dr. Trivedi, I would like to ask you that you highlighted the problem. You said that there are logistical issues. So what can that nationwide strategy be? If you were to, say, for instance, suggest to the government how to rectify this?
Well, Sanket, what I think is that this is what exactly was to be done during lockdown period.
Absolutely.
Because this was anticipated. Yes. It is not a rocket science to know that we will need oxygen, because that is the mainstay. Now, having said that, now also is the time that at least at each city level, district level, taluka level, let us understand what is the consumption we are looking for. And that is very easily can be done based upon the beds, how many beds are there, how many beds are with oxygen. So maybe the district collectors, the commissioners, the secretaries, they can look at the district, how much oxygen they are going to need at the level of region, how much state. And then we should also look for which is the nearest oxygen supplying depot. Because a lot is lost if oxygen is to be carried from, say, more than 1,000 kilometers. So probably we need to look at that as one. Second is like Dr. Bindu talked about concentrators. So those patients who actually don't need very high oxygen levels, probably we need to shift them to oxygen concentrators. Thirdly, at the level of the doctors or at the level of hospitals, what we can do is wherever possible, wherever there is issue of oxygen supply, we should avoid high flow oxygens and probably go with the invasive mode of ventilators. Of course, we can debate on what is good or what is bad. But here the question is, that the routine ventilators take about 1/5 or 1/6 the amount of oxygen what a high flow system takes. So we can do things at the level of administration, looking for logistics. At the level of hospital, we can look at how we can reduce the oxygen consumption. And through your program, I also want to suggest one more thing.
Sure, sir.
Oxygen supply in these hospitals is very dangerous. We have seen some fires. So government should make it as a drill that every week such hospitals should go for a fire control measures, fire control drill. Otherwise, we are waiting for one more disaster. It's not the lack of oxygen. It will be the over-oxygen fire, and we will lose some more lives. What happened, I think, in Gujarat and some other cities. That we should not have. I think that is also a part
Very important
of lockdown
point.
when doctors should have, then the hospital should have been geared up. We have never seen so much of oxygen in the hospital, what we are seeing today. 65 bed ICU, oxygen coming, trucks coming every day, sometimes twice a day. So much is the need of oxygen, and it's a raw material for fire, and it is going to fire some more hospitals. So this is the time when not only for oxygen, we should be alert for fire hazard as well.
I think these are absolutely fantastic suggestions, and if the government is listening, these are the problems and the solutions being offered by doctors. And I mean, we did see that footage from an ICU where suddenly the machine caught fire. Perhaps it was a result of exactly this, what Dr. Trivedi seems to be mentioning. But Dr. Chaudhary, just off the top of my head, I want to understand, would you like to add on to the suggestions that can be given to the government to make sure that oxygen is in regular supply, not oversupplied, because then there will be these complications, but regular supply. Perhaps some sort of a dashboard with real-time monitoring, real-time delivery.
That goes without saying that the oxygen supply has to be a continuous supply, because in the COVID patients, the main bottom line is that you have to keep the oxygen saturation of the patient around about 94%. If when a patient is a known case of COPD, yes, you can maintain him anything between 90 and 94%. To maintain that kind of a oxygen saturation in the body, in a mild and moderate case, 2 to 4 liters may be enough. But in a moderate to severe case, we would require more oxygen. And in that case, and when we are trying to deal with patients who are going to be in a severe category, where we are going to have a high flow this thing, it goes without saying that the government has to ensure, there is no other way out, the government has to ensure that these hospitals do get a regular supply. Like I said in my earlier part also, it's very easy said, but it's very difficult doing it in the peripheral areas. We know how our peripheral areas are and how ill-equipped they are.
Correct.
This time was there to do it, but suddenly one can't wake up one day and try and do something which should have been done years and years ago.
Yeah.
Suddenly those 3 months. So,
but Dr. Chaudhary, something's got to be done now, because see, the crisis is real. I agree that we should have utilized the time of the lockdown better. You know, that point is, I think everybody agrees with it. But what does one do now? We will need those oxygen cylinders now more than ever before.
That's true. That's what the state governments are doing. And like in Delhi, we tried to make sure that the people do not come to the hospitals for just because they require an oxygen, and that's why this arrangement was made that the patients can be supplied on oxygen concentrators at home. Now, those people who just require 2 to 4 liters of oxygen do not require to be in the hospital as such. It is only when the patients are plus 60 or 65, they have comorbidity, they are desaturating. That means their oxygen level is not even 90% at home in spite of their taking oxygen concentrator, oxygen by that. Those are the people who would require hospitalization. And oxygen concentrators also have their own shortcomings in the sense that most of the oxygen concentrators can give an oxygen only till 5 liters per minute. And there are few which can give to 10 liters, but nothing beyond that. So therefore, it goes without saying that, yes, we have to make arrangements. There has to be the patients who are coming in, who are requiring higher dose of oxygen, higher concentration oxygen.
Okay, we seem to be facing some problem with your audio connection, Dr. Chaudhary. I'm going to come back to you. But Dr. Patel, let me ask you, any solutions that you might want to add to what has already been said? We do realize what is the time gone is gone, right? But what does one do now?
Yeah, my suggestions. We are in hospital. 3 type of oxygen supplies there. One is the cylinder type. Then second, liquid oxygen. The third one is oxygen generator now available. Different requirement as per bed capacity, ICU capacity. The oxygen generator is mainly pick up the separate the oxygen from the air, and this separating air and then supply to the. So this type of oxygen generator required only this electricity supply and some machines, oxygen generator machines. So this is one type of solutions to each and every district level hospital and local level.
That supply more oxygen generators, right?
Oxygen generators.
How much do they cost? Are they very expensive? Because then
no. They costing starting from 10 lakhs to 1 crores, 1.5 crores. Depend upon if our hospital capacity like the 200 bedded hospital and ICU around 10 to 20. So this cost around 1 crores as pass. And smaller in smaller unit, it's around 10 to 15 lakhs rupees.
And how will it cater to one entire hospital, or what's its capacity?
Entire.
So that's 1 crore rupees investment per hospital.
Per hospital, more big hospital. In smaller hospital around 10, nursing home type of hospital around 10 to 15 lakhs. These oxygen generator machines.
Okay.
They pick up the These are better solutions.
Okay, Dr. Bindru, very quickly, I wanted to come to you because I didn't ask you for the solutions or suggestions. Maybe you may want to add.
So I think using a centralized oxygen supply is good. What Dr. Patel said. So you need to have a oxygen plant in the hospital, but I don't know how much time it takes and what is the cost logistics. But that is a better option, because otherwise, or the concentrators in patients who are requiring around 4 to 5 liters of oxygen, or you can use the newer versions are now giving around 8 to 10 liters of oxygen, because using oxygen cylinders on an HFNO is gonna take it, empty it in under 10 to 12 hours, not less than that. So I think a centralized oxygen plant has to be done. A triaging of the patients when they are coming to the hospital is very important, because here we are dealing with patients who might be mildly desaturated and patients who are highly desaturated. Where triaging is very important in the emergency for the patient of all the hospitals. And the government has to be active in doing, because as I said, we are still to peak and we need a lot of oxygen in the future for many months to come to save the patients.
Dr. Chaudhary, would you like to complete what you were saying? We lost your audio.
Yeah, like I was saying that most of the time the state governments have done their best, but obviously it is not good enough. And like in Delhi, the Delhi government has given oxygen concentrators to the people at home who require only about, say, 2 to 4 liters of oxygen, because even oxygen concentrators can give you an oxygen only till about 5 liters, most of the oxygen concentrators. There are some which can give you till 10 liters. But where the patient now requires more than 10 liters per minute, then obviously he has to be in the hospital, because even the oxygen concentrator at home is not good enough. And like my panel people are saying just now, that then centralized oxygen is a must, as we have all this in the cities. But obviously in the peripheral areas, one has to depend upon the oxygen cylinders. and in those cylinders, most of the small cylinders will just, if you use them at about 4 liters, they will just finish in within 4 hours.
Correct.
Unless you are using a B-type cylinder, which will take about say about 20 hours or so. But then to replenish that kind of oxygen is not possible all the time and all the areas. So obviously this is a shortcoming.
Okay.
And yeah, so that has to be addressed.
No, I'm just saying this is if only this could have been done earlier, we would have not been in a position discussing something as crucial as oxygen. Can you imagine? Dr. Sushil Bindru, Dr. Skand Trivedi, Dr. Deepak Chaudhary, as well as Dr. Tushar B. Patel. Thank you so much. I feel that this was an extremely constructive discussion that we had. Let's hope that the government listens to the advice and the suggestions and solutions that have been offered by these 4 doctors. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you. Stopping for a short break at this moment on Left, Right and Centre. News continues on the other side. Stay with us.